we've talked a little bit about this. The earth element is the element of it's the densest level. It's the element of cohesion. It's the element of coming into form. It's the lowest chakra, but it is our foundation. It holds things together, but it's also where we can get stuck. Interestingly enough, it's by going all the way down into the earth that we touch that innocence which connects us to the highest centers. It is that surrender. The earth element represents surrender. And movements that, in yoga, all of yoga is grounding in terms of its focus on the feet and the root lock. The grounding aspect of yoga is probably the most important in terms of invoking of a quality in the body. We become embodied. We have to come all the way down into the present moment. We have to bring the mind all the way down into the present moment and beyond just the present moment of the physical body, going inside to feel the life in this moment. So the types of movement, apart from the grounding aspect of the actual asana practice that we would do to evoke the earth element, are movements that are reverent to the earth. And you can see there are certain cultures. African dance, the drum. The drum is the earth. The drum is the heart. The drum connects us to our ancestors. The drum is a very powerful vibratory tool that synchronizes us all together. And the movement of the body to the drum in the downbeat is the letting go. It's the loose, it's the not self-conscious, it's the I surrender. It's the whole movement is going through, and especially the neck. If you go through the Transcendence module manual, we're not going to back up to the other elements, we're just going to focus on air today. But if you go back to earth, each element has a triune function in the body that correlates to the embryonic development of the tissues in the body. And the earth element is the neck, the colon, and the feet. So when we want to invoke balanced earth element and balanced root chakra, we invoke the attitude of humility, surrender, playfulness, innocence, letting go, downbeat, and we work the body deep in the knees, deep knee bends, and letting the head go. All these kind of swing. I knew a man from Cameroon. It sounds like a song. He was a dance teacher. But he came from a tribe, he came from a village in which dance was used for communication. They gathered every night after the evening meal in the circle in the village, and they danced to each other. They had a language of dance. And when they met in the fields, they would dance to each other. They would have a dance step for, haven't seen you in a long time. Have another dance. It's true. They had another dance for the response to that, and they would have this whole dancing vocabulary. And this guy was teaching at Synergy Dance and Healing Center, Arts, and he, in his tribe was a lineage that carried the language of the dance, just like you have a lineage of shamans, or you'll have a lineage of the keeper of the stories. He was in the lineage of the keeper of the dance. So it was a great privilege to study dance from him. I really learned a lot in terms of that letting go. And in the letting go, feeling your basic humanness and your basic connection to all of humankind, and to all of your ancestors, was really empowering and beautiful. So, but every element has its feeling quality, and the types of cultures and dances and styles of music and musical instruments that work with that element. Like, just based on what we've talked about so far, what would it be for instance, water? Give me some examples of music that would be watery.
Would classical music be watery?
It could be.
Piano.
Piano could be watery if it was that sound of ripple in water.
Mm-hmm.
Harp could be watery. Flute. The other thing about water is it's that desire and that sensuality and that feminineness, and it moves in spirals and snake-like circles. So when we get into the water element, it's the sensual dancing, the Middle Eastern dancing, the hip circle-oriented dancing, the Hawaiian dancing. Mm-hmm. Yes, and this could be air as well, because it would be in the upper body. Also invoking that Kundalini. I've heard it said, and I haven't had this experience, that when you really start working with the root lock, your body starts to move spontaneously. You've awakened the Kundalini, and you go into spontaneous asanas. That undulating flow, that's the water element. It carries a fire in it because it carries a passion in it. And really we have, even though we're looking at it literally like linearly, like step after step, like we master this and we do this, we do this, we start to also see that the qualities, each element carries all the other elements in it. Each quality carries all the other qualities in it, it's just you have the dominant quality. Air permeates through the entire system, water permeates through the entire system, cohesion permeates through the entire system, fire permeates through the entire system. Ether is the space that holds the entire system and every other element in it. So then the fire element, what would be the types of music or movements that would, and feeling tones that would be representative of the fire element? That would invoke it, embrace it, hold it, honor it, balance it.
Music that builds to a crescendo at some point. That would be a recommendation for music, maybe for movements. I think of maybe like shaking or something to sort of like change something to change the status quo. Like when you came over to me in the dancing today, I wanted to try and like shake, look down like this, just something to encourage transformation or something out of the
Breaking a pattern.
yes,
Which is definitely a positive, definitely one of the powers that fire element has. In fact, we talk about chaos when we talk about the fire element, and the importance of chaos. The importance of chaos, and out of chaos comes creation, out of chaos comes form again. Out of chaos resolves itself back into creativity.
And
Like what?
that's the reason slam dancing comes up and death rock, they create that chaos because it's like a intensive, letting that anger, shaking that anger.
I'm not familiar with either of those,
Um,
but yes.
So my answer on the test would have been wrong. I had salsa, like I have this music from the Chocolate Lands, that's sort of the rhythmic, but it's fast paced.
No, you're not wrong.
It's
Absolutely,
not
you're not wrong. No, salsa. The Latin has a strong fire. The Latin can be more toward the water, or it can be more toward the fire. And Latin type.
It's heavy, continuous rhythm. It doesn't have the clashing, but there's some
It doesn't have to be chaos
finale
to
in
be
it.
fire.
There's,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be chaos to be fire. But chaos is a quality that fire has, potentially. And there's a place for chaos. There's a place for that. That's why sometimes, when I have a large room and a lot of people all do this thing where I have everybody running at top speed and constantly changing directions, but having to weave in and out and not bumping into each other. And it's really interesting because you have to be so balanced in a sense. That's why it resolves itself back into harmony. To be that chaotic, this way, that way, up and down and around, backwards and forwards and side to side, and also so aware that with all those people doing the same thing in different directions, no attempt to be like, doing the same thing in the same direction, that still nobody bumps into each other. There's a balance in it, which is interesting, and it's an interesting experience to be in that kind of frenzy where you have to also be centered. And you're in this group experience, everybody is experiencing the same thing. It's actually very funny. So it breaks things, it breaks thought patterns, it breaks patterns, and that's very useful. But the Latin is very fiery. The flamenco is very fiery. It's percussive, so
And
it
the
has
percussion of flamenco, because that's what I was thinking about, anything with
breaking
that.
things, breaking things. It also has an element of earth to it. There's quite a bit of form, and especially in flamenco, there's a lot of form. Like tango, there's a lot of form. It's this held passion, like the fire is burning, slowly getting more and more intense. But they're holding it. So it's interesting how these older cultures that have the dances that sprang up from the way that they live, and the foods that they eat, and their temperaments from their climates, and all of it, that the natural dancing that arose, because dance was a part of life. Dance was a part of life, just like everything else. Food.
The music that I have is called Music from the Chocolate Lands, and it's all flamenco, salsa, all that, and it's like the chocolate that
They've been eating all that chocolate, and now it's coming out in their dance and their music. Yeah, the children dance. They have kind of like dance competitions in the evening, where all the good dancers in the village come out and strut their stuff.
Well, it does seem. I was thinking about that because it does seem like in like parts of Spain or in Latin America. I mean, people just dance all the time. I mean, they just have this rhythm that it's just so different. So I was thinking when we were talking about the water element or releasing hips. I mean, that's what they seem to just. Even the littlest kids are just doing it. And so, do they have this totally different approach? I mean, are they just different people than people?
Think of the language they speak and how that makes you feel. I